What is up, entrepreneurs? You're tuned in to the Non-Corporate Network. This is Entreprenews. Happy Friday. How you feeling, Dustin?
It's Friday. Can't complain. I'm already ready for the 4th of July weekend, man.
Let's get it. Thank you guys for being with us. We know that many of you guys are watching from your virtual office, and we are happy you're tuned in. Excited to get into this. Do you want to mention to them the format and what we're here to do?
Yeah, so think of this as Fox News, MSNBC, kind of mixed with ESPN. We take 6 of the top business headlines and then just debate them. Typically, he's the big loser, and we just have fun with it. And the whole goal is to just keep people on top of today's trending business news and how that can apply for their business.
Yeah, I mean, in a time where people are looking for truth and not looking for just the top paid headline, we bring you the truth. And part of that truth is that Dustin is not going to win. Okay, so getting into our first story, the House passed a small business loan paycheck protection program extension, unanimously voted in by the House. This extension goes through August 8th. You can continue to apply. $660 billion are being infused into this program. What are your thoughts on if we should be extending this and where these funds are going?
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't figured out if you need to take advantage of it now, chances are, an extra couple weeks isn't going to it's not going to change anything. I think, there are unused funds, which means it wasn't all used. I think there's a better way to maybe use it. I mean, the ultimate goal is to keep businesses open and keep people employed. A huge chunk of our GDP comes from consumer spending. So, I mean, maybe not so much $1,200 for everyone or whatever that may be, but maybe we incentivize spending. I mean, logistics, I don't know how it'd be done, but maybe you give higher stimulus to people that are spending more. And basically it's the $1,200. I mean, a lot of people sat on it, and that's where overall savings have increased. So it's not really being spent and therefore not creating spending in the economy. And so I think maybe taking it off the table, realizing, hey, not everyone's taking advantage of it. How can we put this in consumers' pockets and tie it to actual spending rather than saving?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And, the big thing that I go back to here is that it is a loan. Despite anything else, this is not free money that's being handed out. It is a loan. And while some of a percentage of that loan is forgivable, the average loan is over $70,000. And so even if a percentage of that is forgivable, you're still looking at a solid chunk of money that you're going to owe. And a loan comes with interest, Dustin, and we haven't really defined what the percentage of forgivability is. We haven't really defined what the interest looks like. I mean, if these people are needing a loan in order to keep their business alive, they're not going to have the cash to pay it back anytime soon. And so I'm looking at it going, what is that going to do for the people that can't afford the loan payments? Yep. Is there going to be some kind of consolidation? And is that going to put some people in a worse position than they may have started in, where I'll take $50,000 because you're going to give it to me, yep, and then I'll spend it. But now here I am with spend all the money and still have no cash because we're back on wave 2 of coronavirus now.
Yep. And then that's taxpayer dollars squandered. I mean, you bring up really good points there. I mean, I go back to 2008 during the home crisis. I mean, I took a first-time home buyer credit. It was to incentivize home buying. A couple of years later, it got reversed, and I'm still dealing with it. And so what was supposed to be $7,500 ended up paying like $15,000 or something like that. And it's just the government is quick to take it all, and then all right, now that the storm has passed, it's like, how can we make our own money? It's almost like they're a Ponzi scheme. I mean,
you look at it, it really just comes down to how creative of a headline can you write that's going to convince people that this is a good idea for their business. Because you could say, just as well as we're extending this paycheck protection program to keep your business alive, you could just as easily say, we're going to trap you into a loan for the next 20 years that you'll never be able to pay off. And you'll be working 12 hours a day, 4 jobs. And now all of a sudden people are thinking about it in a different light. It's the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, getting into our next story, this kind of piggybacks off what we were just talking about. Amex has come out with an incentive program to help increase spending for small businesses. They're offering a $5 credit when you spend over $10 at a small business. What do you think about what do you think about this plan? Do you think that this is something that can actually create an impact, or is this more of just a headline chasing?
Yeah, I mean, thanks Amex for my half a Starbucks. I really appreciate that. And I had to spend $15 in gas to go spend that $10 to make my 5. I mean, I it seems like it's more of a headline type of thing. It's good PR. I mean, I love the idea that they're trying to help. I think there's different ways to incentivize it, but I mean, what are your thoughts? Is this going to create, opportunity for other businesses to maybe piggyback? I mean, could we create a thing where some of these huge corporations that are sitting on billions of dollars of cash are still profitable right now? I mean, could they help create similar instances that help businesses get consumers back out there spending? I mean, you brought up a good example before this, but
no, I mean, Amex, their customer is the small business owner, the business professional, and so they obviously want to be seen in a favorable light by them. What better way to kind of pull on their heartstrings than to put something together? And although it is kind of a feeble attempt by a company that is, has a responsibility to small businesses to help them, I think that my hope is that it can create some kind of chain reaction, right? I mean, there's a lot of businesses out there, a lot of corporate businesses that are sitting on a lot of cash, and their success is a direct reflection of the small businesses. I mean, Coca-Cola is an example, right? Like, a lot of small businesses are just small mom and pop shops that sell Coca-Cola. They buy it, they put it in their store, they sell it. And so what can these other big companies do that know that small business is kind of the lifeblood of some of their distribution? What can they do, especially if you're boycotting Facebook ads? Like, is there some kind of incentive program that they can create? Because, I don't think it all falls on Amex's shoulders.
Yeah.
But I think that, there's enough businesses out there that could be helping, and I think that it'd be a wise move.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Coca-Cola, if they just maybe this next month, what you've been buying from us, we'll just waive the cost. I mean, sure, their margins will be impacted, but that'll make a lot of businesses happy. The small business, those margins will increase big time, where a huge an increase there will be much more appreciated and felt than a corporation. And I mean, obviously, don't go into bankruptcy doing something like this, but I think there's a lot of people at the executive level that can get creative and how they're helping their distributors, the consumers, and let's all figure out how to work together to respark this economy, get people spending again, and ultimately help that small business.
I mean, if there's a chain reaction for let's all come out and make a statement because this person said something, so I got to say something, so the next person's got to say something, I think that it'd be pretty healthy for a small business ecosystem if it was let's push people into making a statement about supporting the small businesses, and maybe that can kind of catalyze some growth there. Getting to our next story. So I'm from the town that Chick-fil-A was created in. So I am a big Chick-fil-A person, Chick-fil-A sauce running through my veins. And so, with that being said, I was interested in the story that came out a little while ago, but Chick-fil-A is now selling a chicken Parmesan meal kit at select locations, a $15 chicken Parmesan meal kit. They sell it on the app. You can pick it up at the drive-thru. I think this is an interesting play. Is this something that only Chick-fil-A can pull off, or are there other restaurants or other businesses that can maybe capitalize off of repurposing some of their offerings and using their own location as distribution for something other than their kind of main flagship project?
Well, I mean, it's not anything that's like, super innovative that takes a ton of R&D. I mean, you just have to figure it out. I think there are a lot of businesses that could replicate this. But some might be slow. I think where there's a lot of opportunity, I mean, there's like HelloFresh, there's a couple other delivery sources that deliver food to you, where if someone took it from a restaurant approach and people who are diehard restaurant fans, I mean, what if I'm a business that I have, tie-ins to Pizza Hut, Chick-fil-A, all the major restaurants, and then you go through my app and order? I think, I mean, just dealing with some restaurants in the past, they're a little bit slower to do online shopping, create their own delivery service. That's why Uber Eats is around. And so I just think there are other companies that can maybe get there quicker, and I think that's where there might be more opportunity. I mean, there's only so many times you can have Chick-fil-A chicken Parmesan in a week. I mean, you might be able to do it more than most people,
probably, yeah. No, I think that the genius part about this, and something that all too often we see these corporate businesses that put a huge budget behind these rollouts and are almost too aggressive and too greedy. And so like you see this with like your Boston markets and the frozen section at Walmart, where it's almost kind of pulled away their brand equity from the establishment. It kind of loses its allure a little bit.
Yep.
It starts to give you, I mean, the frozen version that you microwave is never going to be as good as the fresh food. And so now you're almost damaging your brand by having a microwave alternative. And so like, I think it's smart for Chick-fil-A to go, we're going to increase our average cart value of what somebody is buying at our restaurant. We're not going to put chicken Parmesan in the menu. We're going to only have it this way so that it incentivizes people that are kind of just buying it out of curiosity. And we're not going to cheapen our brand by just throwing it on the shelves and hoping that it tastes as good as, making it fresh. And I think that those things are what's kind of been in Chick-fil-A's brand identity. And, I think that those are all genius plays that they're making.
Yeah, I mean, there was a huge wave of people doing the frozen entrees. And I think this would be a healthy mix, the in between, where there's a lot of distribution, transportation has to go through, stay frozen, and that's where you lose some quality. But maybe this can be a little more fresh, where it's just not a frozen meal, but more just refrigerated. And I think there's opportunity. It'll be interesting to see how restaurants can roll it out.
Well, you mentioned fresh, and before we get into our next wave of stories, we do want to mention that State 48 is our sponsor. We are switching it up a little bit, and they keep us fresh. I mean, we got a lot of amazing merchandise you can see behind us. State 48, you got to check out their stuff. Do you have anything you want to mention about it?
Yeah. Just want to clarify, they're not sponsoring this episode. This episode is powered by.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of difference there, but yeah, I mean, they're an awesome local brand here in the Valley. I mean, they're huge just on the quality of clothing, but really bringing the community together. They've done a great job at helping nonprofits, and they're just doing really good. So, I mean, if you're looking for some new clothing, check them out, state48.com.
State 48, baby. We appreciate you guys.
And not to be confused with the brewery. Just little note there.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next story. So unused assets have caused about $55 billion, or have cost businesses about $55 billion in the months of March and April. Most of this is from unused office space, company devices, and company vehicles. Over that time frame, there have been about 11 billion with a B, 11 billion square feet of unused office space. 1.2 to 1.6 million cars that are just sitting idly, that are company cars. So, I mean, there's a lot that's just sitting out there going unused. I mean, my question is, what do businesses do? I mean, do they sell it? Can they take advantage of it, create new revenue lines? I mean, it's a lot of money just sitting there, and a lot of good things that could be done, with these assets.
11 billion square feet of office space, 1.5 million company cars not doing anything. I mean, this is crazy, yeah, and we don't have a timeline of when those things are going to start to be used, or if they're even going to be used. Definitely not to the capacity of what they were being used for. I mean, I wonder, I see people do like giveaway like a Tesla, and it generates a huge amount of buzz. I mean, I think that, trying to figure out how you can use these assets to create kind of marketing campaigns or bring awareness, or even just help the community, I think would be an interesting play. I'm also looking at this going, the writing's on the wall in terms of co-working, and how these spaces are going to be kind of consolidated, where one floor that DoorDash has now becomes, why not have three businesses crowdsource the same one? If 60% of the workforce is going to be remote anyway, you don't need as much space. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how the offices and everything are consolidated. There's a lot of unused assets.
Yeah. I mean, business can get creative and figure out how to work together there. I mean, I've had a couple jobs where I got to drive literally an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half across the valley. Like, instead of having one location, it's like, why not have 4 or 5 co-working spots located throughout the valley or major cities? It's easier for for your employees to travel. Like, you know, they're happier. Who wants to sit around, you know, 3 hours a day? Yeah. It allows people to get out of the house. But I think, you know, one thing that comes up that interests me, and I mean, obviously there's privacy and security and all that, but, you know, if you start having co-working spots, you're going to have, like you mentioned, someone from Apple, someone from Google, all these different companies, and there's going to be water cooler chat. I mean, there might be some sweet synergies that can be created, or partnerships that are created that, again, without giving trade secrets or stuff like that, but, you know, just brushing shoulders with people from other companies that might not be direct competitors, but similar in the space, I think can lead to some really, really good innovation. And so
I brought it up before too. I'm wondering, in terms of the real estate side, if we're phasing out retail into office space, and now the office space is being phased out, what's going to happen? Because there's a bubble in real estate in China where they just have empty cities because there's no demand to be living there, because there's too high of a cost of living compared to, you know, what they have. And it's interesting.
And same with the auto industry. I mean, it's that many less vehicles are being purchased. It's a bubble waiting to burst. So going on to our next story. So 86% of consumers have said that after the pandemic, they would love to still see curbside pickup, more of the stuff that's going on, delivery. So, I mean, that trend is greatly picking up. Couple interesting facts: 50% of females prefer it as opposed to 42% of males. One really interesting piece, though, is those people that are 60 years and older, only 4% wanted things like curbside pickup or online ordering pre-COVID. That number has now jumped to 41%. So I think this is a way to make it more convenient for to reach that older demographic. Another interesting fact is that 50% of people stayed away from businesses that didn't offer this. So, I mean, that's huge in terms of missing a huge audience that could be driving revenue, that could be driving sales. So, I mean, what do you think of these numbers? Is this, you know, more of a fad? People are saying it's going to be long term, or is this here to stay?
I mean, you know, it's obviously not a fad based on the numbers. My thing is, like, the more that we condition consumer behavior into don't go to a store, don't leave your house, it's convenient. You know, I get, okay, we don't want to spend all our time sitting in Panera Bread to order when we just get it delivered. But, like, at the same time, I look at it and I go, you know, a couple of things here. One, consumers may increase what they're ordering when they're in store compared to online. Two, you're going to save money by eliminating delivery costs and things like that. And so, you know, a consumer might be able to spend money. And three, like, getting out of your house is something that, again, is part of being human. And the more that every business is going, hey, it's convenient, just stay at home, we're going to put everything on your doorstep. It's like, what is life going to become? Like
the movie WALL-E.
We're just going to sit at our house all day. So, and we have no choices because it's all just conveniently put in front of us. And, and it's just dog fed to us from Facebook and Google. And then we just don't make any decisions all day. It just all just shows up at our doorstep. I don't want to live in that life, you know? So maybe you do, Dustin, but I do not want to live that life.
Well, here, let me break it down for you. After COVID happens and I want to hang out with friends a bit more, if I know that I can get my groceries delivered, I can do curbside pickup, all of a sudden I save a couple hours in the week. That gives me more time to spend with my friends. It's all about how you decide what you decide to do with that time. I'm not going to sit around. I mean, I might sit around and work a bit more. I mean, that's always cool. But I mean, it gives you a couple hours to then go out and hang out. And granted, the average order values might go down because people aren't browsing the store, but because you have this more efficient purchasing pattern, basically more people want to come to you because they can save time. So the average order goes down, but the gross amount of sales go up because you have that convenience factor in there. But no, I do agree. I mean, I think we're on the road of living the movie WALL-E where everything is done. We just sit down.
Shift too. I mean, I know the bell just rang, but there's a huge shift too in the personnel and where people are going to be. I mean, Best Buy, for instance, you're not going to have a bunch of people sitting on the sales floor if no one's going to the place. You know, you're going to have to ship those people. Maybe you get rid of some people. So it's like, you don't need as many employees if this
online
is
sales consultant. You can do virtual face-to-face video conferencing.
So what
answer
Dustin
questions.
is saying is let's fire as many people as possible because 45 million unemployed people isn't enough in this country. Sounds good. Okay, into our next story.
Well, on to our next story. Need to clean those ears out a little bit because the word firing never came up. It's just rethinking people's job positions. So chalk that up as a win for me. On to the next one. So Facebook, they are shuttering a TikTok clone app that launched in 2018. Basically, it was an exact replica. I mean, you had 15-second videos. The whole feed was nothing but these videos. I mean, there's been a ton of negative publicity on what or what TikTok collects in terms of data. They're not a U.S. company. I mean, is this a good move for Facebook? Should they, shut it down, or should they just continue to try and innovate and figure out how to compete with TikTok?
I mean, I don't consider this innovation. I consider it straight up
replication.
Copying. Yeah, it's literally like if you guys check out Lasso, it's literally a clone of TikTok. To every detail. I mean, we saw this with stories and stealing ideas from Snapchat. You see this with the ephemeral content. Now they have 250 million stories being posted. They stole that feature directly off of Snapchat, put it on their platform. So it's less about innovation and more about we have enough money to get around laws and to do whatever we want. And so, it's hard to put a lot of faith into them to knock TikTok off, but I will say that the data that TikTok is collecting, I mean, I don't know how many times you have to say it. Like, it's on the Senate floor. People are talking about how anybody that works at the government, anybody that's in the military is banned from using TikTok. They're collecting a hell of a lot more data than you would think, and 10 times more data than even Facebook, which you think Facebook's the big bad wolf here. TikTok, Chinese-owned company, collecting every kind of data point you can think of. We don't even know all the data.
What are some of the data points that you were mentioning before this? Yeah,
location at all times, any app you have open, all the apps on your phone, your screen time on a day-to-day basis, your IP information, what websites you go to, your search history. Why does TikTok need to know what your search history is, Dustin? Yeah. I don't know why. And so I think that right now we're also fired up about TikTok and its virality and, this is so funny. We're doing these little challenge videos. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, we're just putting by the wayside data security. And now a country like China is going to know what people are spending 6 to 10 hours a day on their phone doing, from like 10 to 15-year-olds that are going to be around for the next 40 years. You now know every pattern that these people have in their entire life. I'm not in support of it.
You brought up an interesting point before we started this, was that, they might not have the military muscle to defeat us, but if you know what everyone is doing, you now have the data to figure out what actions are more split 50-50, the more polarizing things, and then you can create content and basically divide the nation. And that's what makes the United States so strong.
It's called TikTok, because they know how we freaking TikTok in our brain, in our fingers.
Mind blown right there.
They know everything about us in terms of where we're spending our time, what we're enjoying to do, what things we value. Like at least there's some entity around, like Facebook sat in the Senate. They're keeping an eye on them, and we just kind of have brushed TikTok off like they're just some little competitor. Yeah. There's 1 billion people using TikTok now. It's not a little billion competitor anymore. Yeah. We need to figure out a way to, mitigate some of this risk.
Yep. Well, my favorite story was, in regards to what are businesses doing with the assets. There's so much. Yeah, there's so many cars. There's so much space. I mean, we were talking earlier. I mean,
give back, man.
You could give to the homeless, a shelter. I mean, you can give raffles to car. I mean, there's so much that you can do. I mean, so much that you could bless people with. And I mean, you could use it as PR.
Yeah, I know. If you're going to do it for a headline, might as well do it for a headline like that.
Those yours.
I got Chick-fil-A in my blood, baby. So I'm ready to eat that chicken Parmesan. I think it's a great idea. I think that they're going to continue to raise the cart value. They're going to continue to not be greedy. And by doing that, they're going to keep building the brand and building the brand and building the brand. And it's just going to become something that goes from a fast food restaurant to, a gourmet meal. And so I love what they're doing. But And thank you guys for being here. If you enjoyed what we're doing and you want to be involved, you can check us out at ncnbroadcast.com. Fill out a form if you want to start a show, whether you're in Tibet or in Scottsdale. You know, we're here for you, and we want to give you a stage to speak some truth to the people. But again, you know, you're tuning in on Corporate Network. This is news brought to you by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. But Dustin, do you have anything?
No, I mean, we're worldwide. I mean, soon, once we can get telecommunications, we'll be on Mars too. I mean, that'll be sweet.
Yeah, no, we were talking
We'll reach Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk.
Yeah,
cool.
No, we're excited. Yeah, we're going to get those partnerships. SpaceX is going to be the next sponsor. Thank you guys so much for being with us, though. Again, my name's Chaz Vandemotter.
I'm Dustin Trout.
You've been watching Entreprenews. Have a great weekend. Happy 4th of July. Try not to work too hard. Maybe turn your laptop off at noon and give yourself the afternoon. Dustin's you're gonna have to smash his laptop. But thank you guys for being with us, and check us out on social media. We're all over the place. But yeah, that's about all I got.
Sign off. We'll see you guys Monday.
Peace.